So, friends, welcome back to Hobby Vomit. It's me, Matt, and today we are going through another Weekly Retch. So it is my week for the Weekly Retch. Ian did last week, and we are into a week on, week off kind of rotating Weekly Retch between himself and myself. So this is my week, and we'll be talking about the last 2 weeks now, which I found like when I was doing week to week, a lot of the books were the same. I wouldn't really read a lot of movies or play a lot of games, and I don't have a ton more this time, but I'm hoping that kind of leads to more variety, and you get to see what Ian's doing as well, which is always fun. So let's get right into it. What's the Weekly Retch? We talk about what movies, books, what movies I watched, what books I read, and what games I've played in the last 2 weeks, and we kind of just talk about those. So let's get right into it with what movies I watched, and like always, it's the shortest one movie in the last 2 weeks, which is kind of crazy. And so we were supposed to do our movie club, but we had a couple of the guys just had some things pop up, so we're postponing it a little bit. And I think we did land on, we were a little unsure what we were going to land on, but I think we landed on watching Sing Sing, which was nominated for, I think, a couple things in the last Oscars. So I'm excited to watch that. I think we're going to be watching that this upcoming week and then possibly releasing that discussion a week from tomorrow. So we'll see if that actually happens. We might push it a little bit longer. I'm not sure. But that is the next movie discussion, I think, locked in. So I didn't watch that because I was waiting until a little closer to the discussion. But what I did watch was Carrie for the very first time, the OG Carrie. And wow, I really liked it. I liked it quite a lot. I actually watched it last night with Bree. The reason why is because I'll talk about it in a second, but I read Carrie. And so my experience with Carrie, I never watched it growing up. I never watched any of the remakes or anything. But all I knew about Carrie was what everyone knows about Carrie, right? It's like the stuff about the prom and what happens. I guess I won't say in case it is a spoiler for you who maybe you've not watched Carrie or don't know about Carrie. But I think a lot of people do. And so I knew that. I knew what most people know. But I didn't know about all the other stuff that happens in the book. So it was really fun. I read the book, and then I watched the movie to see how close it was to the book. And it was mostly pretty accurate. I was really impressed with the adaptation, and I liked it quite a bit. I thought the acting was great. The mom was terrifying, and yeah, I just thought it was really good. I will say though, one thing that super bothered me about the movie was the sound design. Whoever was put in charge of doing the score and the soundtrack, they need to be fired. It was awful. Like, it just took me out of it. I just don't. I didn't get it. I didn't understand it, and I didn't like it at all. But I liked it. I thought the movie was good. So I gave that a 4 out of 5 stars. And yeah, that's the movie I watched. One movie. Hopefully more next time I report. Let's move on to books that I read. I'm not positive. There's a couple books I put on here that I may have talked about last time, but I don't think so. At least not with the update that I have. So I finished, let's see, 1, 2, 3 books since the last time we talked. And the first of those books was Holly. Bree and I had been reading Holly for our reading. And it's by Stephen King. The 5th, I think, installment, actually, I guess the 6th installment in the Holly Gibney series or whatnot. This one focused more on Holly, which you could probably intuit from the title. But yeah, we wrapped that up, and I liked it. I'll be having a review for that coming out, just like I have reviews for all the books I finished. But I will say it was probably my least favorite of the Holly books. I think maybe just the fact that we read all 6 straight, combined with the fact that I just don't know if Holly is main character material. I think she really, really shines when she's a supporting character, and this was a little bit more focused on her. But that's not to say it wasn't a good book. I really enjoyed it. I was ready. I'm not sad it's over, I guess, But there's some really, really cool things about that book, which I'm excited to talk about in my review. So yeah, we finished up Holly. I finished up Carrie, which I just talked about. I just kind of knocked out Carrie. It's a very short book. But man, I really, really liked it. I was surprised at how much I liked it. I was kind of expecting it to be a little more cut and dry just from what I knew. But I blasted through it. Man, it was just, it kind of blows my mind that that's his first book. And the style it was written in, I know there's a name for it. I can't think of the name, but it's like peppered in throughout the story are like newspaper clippings and like textbook studies and stuff like that. And it was really interesting. Normally I don't like that part of King because my favorite part of King is King. And whenever he's writing as somebody else writing, it's good, but you lose those like King-isms and stuff, which make him so fun to read. But yeah, I still really enjoyed it. I thought it was great. Some pretty horrifying moments. Honestly, tragic book. So I'm excited to talk about that in my review as well, which will be coming in the next couple of weeks. Bree and I wrapped up part 2 of Lonesome Dove, which we'll be discussing with my family for our family book club on Monday, and loved it. I mean, it's so good. It's so good, and I am very excited to read part 3, and I'm very nervous to read part 3. Yeah. So very, 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 very good. If you like good character work, I mean, some of the best I've ever read. And it's a large cast, but I think he does a great job of keeping everybody peppered in at the right amount so you're still with everybody. Yeah. Some stuff has gone down in part 2, so very excited to talk about that with my family on Monday. So, yeah, that's part 2. We have one part to go. I think we're about 67% done with the book. So we got about 33% left with part 3, and that's all in one part. So we're going to knock that out probably next month, or I guess technically this month, and bleed into May, I'm guessing. So yeah, Lonesome Dove. And then I finished one more book. This one was just I read by myself, and that was The Justice of Kings by Richard Swan. I know I talked about starting this the last time, but I don't know if I talked about finishing it. So really, really liked this book as well. Was really pleasantly surprised at how much I liked this book because I didn't know anything about it. I just knew people liked it, and then I know most people like book 1, and then 2 onwards, I think it got pretty polarizing. Some people love it. Some people hate the direction it goes in. But man, book 1 was excellent. I struggled a little bit because the POV, I don't like first person so much, but it was a really cool storytelling method where it was first person from the clerk of the justice. So the main character is not really the main character, but kind of is. And it's also told from the main character in their old age. They're reflecting back on their past. So really cool. I really ended up really liking it. And it's basically like fantasy horror. And fantasy, I know the author talks about being fantasy lawyer. So fantasy lawyer with some fantasy horror. And it worked in mostly every way. It's not a perfect book by any means. I'll talk about that in my review. But I really, really liked it. Kind of gave I've only played The Witcher. I've never read The Witcher, but it kind of gave Witcher vibes-ish. But very excited to get into book 2. I'll probably be starting book 2 after the next book I'm going to talk about. So the next book that I am reading is called The Immortal Investigations. So this is a book by a booktuber named Michael Cronk. He's the book guy, I believe. And I saw that I like his videos, and I saw he was doing a Kickstarter for the first 3 books in his series. And I like a lot of his takes for the most part. I agree with his taste for the most part. And I like that he's not afraid to give criticism. And so when he said he was writing, that made me excited to just see what he had. And so I've been reading that about 100 pages in, about 25% in. And I am really not liking it, unfortunately. I don't know. I don't like the characters. I don't like the writing so much. It's got humor that is not working for me at all. The character work is not working for me. I mean, I don't know if I should call it character work because there basically isn't any character work. It feels very, and this could certainly just be my taste. And I'm not the only other. What's it called? What's the fantasy called? I'm blanking. Urban fantasy. Urban fantasy. Derp. It is an urban fantasy so far, and it's kind of like a Dresden Files. Like, it gives me those same like tonal vibes, but the main character is just not likable at all, and then not in a way that's like, well, I don't care. He's not meant to be likable. I think he's meant to be likable, and I just kind of in the same way that I hated the main character of that Andy Weir book that everyone loves, Project Hail Mary. Oh my gosh, I cannot stand the main character in that book, and it really just tanked the book for me. And that's kind of how I'm feeling here, and I don't like it. We'll see. I hope the last 3/4 of it changed my mind because I have the first 3 books. But if it's like this the whole time, I won't be continuing the series. But a lot of respect to him for publishing a book. I mean, like, I think it's well written. I just think the style was not to my liking at all. So take that for what I think. If you like urban fantasy, you'll probably like it. It feels like, here's the last thing I'll say about it. It feels very YA, but with mature themes and writing. Like, they curse and stuff. It's not YA, but like the character's maturity feels YA. I don't know, and it's just not my cup of tea. So we'll see. We'll see if I change my mind. I do plan on finishing it unless it gets like horrible. It's not horrible or anything. It's readable. It just I'm not enjoying it so much. So sometimes that happens. So after I finish that, I will be continuing the Justice of Kings, the Emperor of the Wolf trilogy. All right, what else have I read? A buddy of mine and myself are reading Revival by Stephen King. Just before I filmed this, I wrapped up the reading that we had planned for this week, and we are about 3/4 done now. And whoo boy, is good. I'm so nervous, and we're coming on the last 25%, and I am very scared. Every time I read like dark Stephen King, I get to a point where I'm like, you know what? I don't care if it's supposed to be horror. Like, just give us the happy ending, King. Just give us the happy ending. That's all I want. I care about these characters so much that I don't want it, but I also do want it. I want the dark ending. So I'm nervous. I'm really excited. I think this is going to be, not to spoil what I think, but unless he really flops on the last 25%, which I don't think he will, because in my opinion, I think his endings are good. At least the ones I've read. I think this is going to be a top 5 Stephen King for me, for now at least, until I read more. Very good. Very, very good. Some of the best character writing I've ever read, and man, yeah, I want the happy ending. I know I'm not getting it, but I want it. All right, so that's Revival. I'm reading The Heroes with Bree. That is our new book that we're reading. That we wrapped up our part 2 of Lonesome Dove. So The Heroes is by Joe Abercrombie. This is the second book in the First Law World trilogy. So it's the 3 standalones that take place after the First Law trilogy, but they're still in the same world as the First Law, and you're still supposed to read them in order. But yeah, I guess that's what they are. So this is the second, following Best Served Cold. And this book so far is all about warfare. Just all about warfare and the planning of warfare and the execution of warfare. And, I've talked about it before. That is my least favorite part about fantasy. I don't like just reading action and battles. And so I knew that going in, this book was about warfare and battles and stuff. And so I thought this was going to be a really interesting task for Abercrombie to live up to, of like, how do you keep that interesting? And I got to say, we're 1/4 of the way through. I am loving it. I should have trusted Abercrombie. I love his writing. I think he's got great writing, great character work, but still, even in like Best Served Cold or the First Law trilogy, all of that's still there as well. But then we get to some battle scenes, and I would find myself right on the edge of checking out because I just didn't care so much when it's just like your main character going into a battle, killing a bunch of people, or being surrounded by people that you just don't know and don't care about. But this is very different. I think that's where he sticks the landing here, is that you're so connected and involved to every character, and there's a very large cast in this book, that you care. There are stakes that you care about, and no one is safe. And yeah, I think so far, and it seems like the book is literally just going to be battle after battle after battle after battle after battle. So literally like a 500-page book of my worst nightmare. But so far, man, absolutely loving it. So yeah, that's The Heroes by Joe Abercrombie. Going to be continuing that. I read a couple of the short stories from Night Shift by Stephen King. I've been working on this book for a very long time. Sometimes I'll just read a short story here and there as a palate cleanser, or I'll listen to them on audiobook when I go for a walk or am doing Power Wash Simulator. But I just haven't been playing that. And on my walks, I've been listening to a different book. So I went back to a couple of these, specifically 2 that I read. The last 2 that they don't have an audio book of these 2 stories. The audiobook for this book is very weird. They recorded like 8 of the 15 stories, and they're not even part of the same recording. You have to go find them. I don't know, very funky, but I wanted to read all the ones that I had to actually physically read. So the last 2 that I had to read were Children of the Corn and The Last Rung on the Ladder. So Children of the Corn, another of those classics of Stephen King that I had never seen the movies. I just knew of it and knew what it was. I loved it. Great short story. Pretty terrifying. And it is one of those that, like, when I finished it, I really liked it. Thought it was a great short story. But then I was like, wow, I can't believe there's been like 8 Children of the Corn movies. Like, of all the source material, this is just such a weird one to choose. And I still feel that way. I mean, I'm excited to watch those movies eventually. I just can't believe there's so many Stephen King stories. And it blows my mind that, like, a movie production company is like, what should we make? I know, Children of the Corn 7. I'm just like, okay. And they're all supposed to be bad too. I mean, which sometimes that's fun, but I love the short story. Yeah, it's about basically a couple driving through a rural, I don't remember where they are. I think it's central United States. And they just come across this abandoned town, and where the children essentially are kind of running things, and things go poorly for them. So that's where I'll leave it. But I really enjoyed it. I think I gave that short story a 4 out of 5. And then The Last Rung on the Ladder. Whew, man, this was a standout for me, and I love. Honestly, like. This is my favorite side of King, I think. It's just he writes characters so well. So Last Rung on the Ladder, it's just essentially about a man reflecting on his childhood with his kid sister. And yeah, I'll just leave it at that. But man, it's a beautiful tale, very tragic. And yeah, it just kind of, you finish the last page, and it's one of those that will stick with me, I think, forever, and just like in a haunting way. Where Children of the Corn was fun, like popcorn, horror, classic King. But The Last One on the Ladder, it's kind of like if you've read The Jaunt or something like that, to where it just like it sticks with you. And yeah, really, really loved it. 5 out of 5 short story for me. So I'm hopefully going to be finishing up Night Shift in the next month or 2, and then I won't do a normal review for this one. I think what I'm going to do is I'll just talk about each story shortly and rate it. And so I'm not going to do the whole BARF system because that's too much. And then on that note, once I finish Night Shift and Revival, I think at that point I will have read 20 Stephen King books, and I want to do a ranking of all the Stephen King books I've read. So I'm excited to do that. And then the last book I've been reading, 2 more, audiobook very quickly as I walk. Been re-listening to The Blade itself. Bree and I read that the first time, but I wanted to listen to it. I find audiobooks on a re-listen or reread audiobooks work really well for me. And man, Stephen Pacey's narration is excellent. So been listening to that on my walks, and it's been great. About 75% done with that, and can't wait to keep going. And then lastly, I finally started for my bedtime read, started some Terry Pratchett. So I started the very first book in Discworld, The Color of Magic. I know there's some controversy of whether you should actually start there or start somewhere else because Color of Magic's not the best or whatever. I don't really know enough, but I'm about 25% of the way through, and I really like it. I don't think it's going to be a 5 out of 5 or anything, but I'm really enjoying it. I think it's just like a fun little romp so far, and not too much is happening. It's just a fantasy world that's made up, and there's definitely some fantasy tropes that are being made fun of, and yeah, it's just a fun little romp. I'm excited to see where it goes, and then eventually get into the better Discworld. But so far, really liking his writing style, and excited to read more. So those are the books I've read in the last 2 weeks, and then we're getting into the games I've played in the last 2 weeks. This is another bit of a longer section. Oh, did my screen break? Hello? Oh, I'm back. Sometimes I think if I don't touch my mouse long enough, my screen turns off. All right. Hopefully that didn't break my microphone, because sometimes it does. But here we are. Games I played in the last 2 weeks. Like every week, Ian and I have played some Dwarf Romantic because it's great. He has been working really hard on the Sakura mod. He basically got the assets. He built the mod all himself, and it's awesome. Very well done. If you are interested in the game, I'm sure at some point, I think Ian's actually got a video up showing off the mod, so you should check that out. And if you're on Steam, you can you can subscribe to it and play it for free as long as you have Tabletop Simulator. But he and I are going to be sometime in the next couple of weeks starting a campaign, and we're going to play through the whole campaign, streamed or recorded or whatnot. And yeah, really looking forward to that. It's a great game, pretty much just infinitely replayable. It's just chill. You're just putting tiles out, trying to do the best you can, no stress. You end the game, count up your score, maybe unlock some stuff, and you do it again. So, great game. And then I played with Jonesy, or Josh, that you may have seen on this channel, Bitoku. Bitoku is a super fun, underrated, in my opinion, Euro game with some incredible art and theme. And it's like deck building dice placement is the best way I can describe it. You have a little deck of cards that you play to get actions on those cards, but when you play a card, that unlocks a die, which you then put out onto the board and get to do more actions depending on the value of the dice. And then you're going to be, with those dice, maybe building buildings or adding new cards to your deck, and so on and so forth. Really great game. Plays great at 2. I will say it's a bit long, especially the way we play. We play over the phone, so it takes even longer. But I think 2 players is the most I'd ever want to play it with. 2 players seems like, I think in person you could probably jam it out at like 2 hours at 2 player, which is about the upper end of a game that I like to play for like my midweight Euros. It definitely leans towards the heavier side of Euros. It has some flaws. The biggest flaw is they went too heavy on theme, in my opinion, to where like even areas of the board are like named things and normal phases of a game where it's like cleanup phase. Instead of calling it the cleanup phase, they call it like the return of the yokai. I'm like, what's the return of the yokai? I was like, oh yeah, that's just the cleanup phase. And each of the like 8 phases are named something like that. And it's just like, that's cool, but I don't need it. I don't think anyone needs that. And if anything, it just causes more confusion. It makes it harder to learn. And I don't think it's really, at no point, I'm the first to admit I'm not the biggest thematic gamer, but at no point am I like, oh, the return of the yokai. That makes now I know exactly what I'm doing because the return of the yokai are going back to our hand. No, I'm just like, no, it's the cleanup phase. So I wish they kind of just rewrote the rule book in a way that made it easier to digest. But that's really maybe my biggest flaw, other than it's long. It's not really a flaw. I have a great time while I'm doing it, so that doesn't bother me. And also the solo mode is not good. I don't think the solo mode is good, but rejoice, for Cell, our savior, has made a solo mode, and it is very good. So if you have Bitoku and you're a solo gamer, but you don't like Turksy solo modes like myself, then have no fear. Cell has made a solo mode that you can find. If you just go to the BGG page for Bitoku, you'll see it on there. Super easy to run, really smooth, plays great. And forgot to mention, we also play with the expansion, which was a ton of fun. Really easy to integrate, adds almost zero overhead, and just makes the game a little bit better. It's just little cards that you draw that are just triggered by certain things. That's it. And it's just like, when you do this, play this card and get a little something. And you know what? I'm all for that. And then the other thing that changed was there's 5 little rivers that you're kind of moving up tracks on, and it's just whoever's ahead gets the most points. They've substituted 3 of those with tracks that do other things instead of just give out points, which made those more exciting as well. So excellent expansion. Love that game. Excited to play some more of that as well at some point. So that was Bitoku. And then also with Josh, but additionally with with Brooks, who you've probably seen on this channel as well as JPOC. And then Ben, who's not been on the channel, but that's Ian's brother-in-law. And then Brooks' little brother, Bailey. We played a game called Bomb Busters on Tabletop Simulator. That game was super fun. It's basically a cooperative deduction game. So you're all working together to defuse a bomb. And so at the beginning of every round, you only play like rounds. Either you win that round and then move on to another mission. There's like 65 missions in the box. Or you fail and play that mission again. But the goal is to defuse the bomb without cutting a red wire. So you're dealt X amount of tiles in the beginning of each game secretly, like 8 to 10. And they all have a number on them, like 1 through 10. But some of those are red, and some are blue, and some are yellow. And only you can see what you have. But you can give out limited information at the beginning of each round. And then you have to say, Brooks, you point to one. You say, is that a 5? And if it is, then you cut it. And you just got to hope it's not a red wire. And if it's a blue wire and it matches, you get to reveal one of your 5s as well. So you're working together to try and give out information because they're all sorted in ascending order on your player board, essentially. And so if I say, is that a 5? And he says yes, and I put down my 5, and my 5 is the leftmost tile I have, that lets everybody at the table know I don't have a 4, 3, 2, or 1 because it goes in ascending order, and 5 is the leftmost one I have. So you're working together to try and not cut the red wires, and super fun. We played a couple rounds of that, had a blast. I don't know if I'd ever want to play it in person because you'd have to shuffle like 70 of these little rectangle tiles and dish them out, and it just kind of seems like a pain. But scripted on TTS, it worked great. And then, let's see, so that was Bomb Busters. 2 more games I played. Lord of the Rings LCG. I finally got back and played a quest. And had a blast doing it. Every time I do, I really enjoy it. I played it two-handed, which is not my preferred way to play, I don't think. That's not true. It's my preferred way to play, but not two-handed solo. And the same is true of Marvel Champions, which is the other game I played. I love both of these games at 2-player, but not when I have to control both characters because it's just a lot more upkeep, and it makes the game go a lot longer. But true solo is also a lot harder in Lord of the Rings LCG. So I wanted to continue on where I last left off, which was the I'm not going to remember I want to say the Ring Bearer cycle. I can't remember what the deluxe box is, but it's purple. And yeah, I had a great time doing that quest. Excited to do more here and there as I go. And then Marvel Champions, yeah, I just have been Josh and I are thinking about doing the newest box, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. We're going to do that campaign together. And getting that out and sleeving it kind of got me excited to play that again. So I played a couple of games of Marvel Champions since and had a great time. So yeah, I think that's it. I may have missed a game or two, but I know we're hitting the 30-minute mark, so I'm not going to say too much more. Looking at my notes here, I think that's it. So yeah, that was our weekly Retch with me, Matt. We talked about the movies I watched in the last 2 weeks, the books I read, and the games I played. And yeah, tomorrow, no video will be out tomorrow because we're postponing the movie. On Tuesday, my review for Justice of Kings will be out. And I think on Wednesday, maybe Ian will be putting out some Malazan content. I'm not sure. That's a maybe. And same with Saturday. I'm not sure if he's actually releasing anything this week or not. And then Ian and I think might be recording some Marvel Champions tonight. So that might be out this week as well. So yeah, that's what's coming out next week. This was the Weekly Retch. I appreciate you being here. Talk to you next time. Goodbye.